Hey guys, Matt here from Wax Assassins. I got my wife's GNU B Nice. I think this is a 148. 148. This is her daily. She loves this board. Says it gives her a lot of control. And she likes that. I'm trying to get her to realize that sometimes you want control and sometimes you don't. She likes to wax her boards kind of like an ice cream cake. If you see here, it's got way too much wax on it. See that there? Too much wax. It's just way too much. If you can see the color and the white and stuff like that, it's just too much. So this is what happens when I go to work and my wife waxes her own boards. So basically what I'm going to do is there's some gray on this rail right here that you see. Instead of applying the cleaner here, boop, snow vibes, I am going to add a tiny bit of cold weather wax to the rails right here. And then I'm going to blend everything with the iron and then start the process. Because I can use this wax to basically recycle and use it properly instead of having it all cruded up on the board. So I'm going to show you that right now. How to fix your wife's wax job. Just make sure the camera's good to go. Just give me 1 second. Alright, that looks pretty dope. Alright, so first thing, I'm going to drip some of this Swix cold temp on the rail. I like to have my iron at like, I think 140 to like 250 max. That's so you don't smoke your wax. You don't want to be smoking wax. If any smokes is coming off your wax, it's too hot. The rails of any board, whether it be a ski or a snowboard, that's going to be the first thing to have the wax rub off. So you'll notice when it goes gray, that means you need to, see that's starting to smoke a little bit, so I'm going to turn it down. Right, so I just want that wax to just evenly go into the base there. Sometimes you're going to see like little bubbles coming out of your base. It's basically letting you know that the wax is going in where you want it. Basically, we're planning on going to Loon this weekend, and then we have a Carve for Cancer event next week at Blue Mountain March 9th, and we're going to do a border cross there, or bank slalom I should say, to raise money for blood cancer research. So we're going to test this wax at Loon, so that when we go to Blue Mountain on March 9th, we know what's going on. Is it good? Is it not good? Stuff like that. Basically, this is a test run. Alright, that's enough. You do not want to use too much wax. When I first started waxing, I used way too much wax. Hello there. This is Mrs. Too Much Wax herself.
Learning.
Oh, that tea's hot.
Careful.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Woo! Something therapeutic about just sliding hot wax on the base of a snowboard. You always want to have your iron moving. Right now my iron is set at 160 to 260. So hot enough, but not sizzling. If you're smoking the wax, you're cooking the chemicals, whatever's in there, you're cooking it off. It's leaving the board, it's not going into the base at that time. Alright, so I need a little bit more wax on this tip right here. One of the really things I really like about any GNU, LibTech, Mervin made board is how the rail stops right here, and it has a really less profile of a nose and like less of a spin weight, or more, yeah, less spin weight. Basically, you can spin your board faster, easier to repair, stuff like that. Makes your board lighter. Laundry list of goodness coming out of Mervin. Should hashtag that, laundry list of goodness. All right. Alright, so the wax is kind of spread around all the way, not really. I'm gonna move my cup out of the way so I don't get it all. I don't want to drink any wax. Alright. So, we just started using this cold powder. So we're going to see if this gives us an extra edge on the slide. This is expensive stuff. It's like $25, $26 a bottle. But sometimes you can find it on Amazon cheaper. But I always say if you can get it from your local board shop, and support your local board shop first before you buy anything online. Always support local business if you can. So you're going to see me picking up the iron a little bit on this powder wax. That's because I'm not trying to push it all over the board. I kind of want it to melt right in place where I dropped it. So the first time I'm pushing it into the base, kind of. It melts very fast. Like I said, you don't want any smoke. Just in case you're wondering, guys, all the waxes we use are water-based. Whatever brand we buy, we always buy water-based waxes. We're just not into snowboarding and then leaving crap in our wake while we're going down the hill. That's just not cool. Basically, my attitude is however fast I can make it with the hydro waxes is how fast I'm going to make it, and that'll be that. If I can't compete with fluoro guys or whatever, then so be it. At least I'm not polluting the environment. So basically you can, if you're looking close enough, you can see where the base is and where the wax is pulling into. And right now I'm seeing some spots in this tail section that the wax is not fully getting into. So I'm just going to do a couple of drops of the hot wax. One of the things that you can do, oh wow. Alright guys, so all of that wax is in there. It just needs to be scraped, but I just found a burr in my wife's edge all the way up near the tip, so I'm going to basically fix it real quick before I go any farther. If I find something wrong with the board, I usually like to fix it, and the offending spot that I'm talking about is right there. And it's basically all just chunked up along that edge. So first thing I'm going to do is grab my gummy stone and the diamond file and just a rag. I'm going to clean the wax off first because I don't want wax on the rail when I go to mess with this gummy stone, because you don't want to get wax inside your edge tools. Alright, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finger, left and right side, and I'm just going to place it right on the top of the deal and make sure that I'm not angled at all, and then I'm using my fingers as a guide. Make sure you got the camera view over there real quick. Okay. So basically, like I said, placing this on top of the edge, and then I'm just running down that edge to feel where the burr is. Alright, and then same thing with this side. I'm going to use my fingers as the guide and just run down the edge and pull that burr out, making sure the edge is flat. You don't want to put any sort of angle on this because it's going to detune the edge. This is all the way out at our tip, so most of the contact point is actually in the middle on this board and kind of right here. So all right, so I've taken the burr off with the gummy right there. It's more, the edge is better. So basically I'm just going to take this sharpening tool and run it along that top spot, making sure not to put any sort of angle on this. So this is a 200 grit diamond file. These are really good. This was given to me by Don Ellis at First Tracks, and he's basically the one that told me to use your fingers as the guide, right? So basically when you're up on this edge, you set it with your right finger. I'm holding it with my left hand, but I'm setting it with my other hand. And then whatever the file touches is what gets taken off. I'm not trying to manipulate this left or right. I'm just, wherever my finger takes is where it takes it. So once I've done that top edge, it's a diamond file, so it goes real fast. I'm going to switch to this bottom edge and do the same thing with my other hand as the guide on this side. And that'll just gently take off any excess and sharpen up that spot. Alright, back to the gummy stone. Just like to make sure and finish it with this. My buddy Duke Earl Stout gave me this gummy stone, and the good thing about tools that are given to you by friends is you always remember that time and place where you were when you were riding, when they gave it to you and stuff like that. So alright, so the edge is all fixed up. I like to just run my hand down the edge like this and just feel everything with your thumb or whatever. You'll feel a burr as soon as you touch it. This is another new board. She's probably ridden this 5 times, so most of her edges are good to go. Alright. So now we're going to scrape all the excess from tip to tail. Take you back here so let's see what's going on. All right. So as I'm scraping this, obviously if I was doing a ski or something skinnier, I use a smaller, thinner scraper. Something like this. I made it rounded on the edges for different boards that I have, but also if there's any sort of 3D contouring. Thinner scraper there. So every once in a while, just take a look, see what you're doing. Make sure you're not gouging your boards. I barely ever use like a metal scraper unless I'm doing like a P-Tex repair or something like that. Basically what I'm trying to do right now is just, when I was first starting to tech boards and skis and whatever, I want to just kind of, the questions that I had, say them out loud so I can kind of answer your guys' questions preemptively. So right now I'm just taking off the excess, so when I go to the next step, it's a lot easier. If you skip this step, you will not have a waxed board, a waxed ski properly. Scraping is the essential step. See that real quick. So you can see it's the imperfections in the wax, but it's very smooth. So right before you go to your brushing stages, you want to make sure it's real smooth. You can see all that bluish cold wax and that white base. By the time I get completely done, you should not see any of that blue. All right. First step, I used to use this nylon roto brush, and it throws a lot of brass around, but I am going to use it on this board because the base really needs to get structured right now, and it's going to be way easier to do with the roto brush than the brass brush. So this one is horsehair. It's a 100mm brush. You can find this on Amazon with the guard. The guard will be interchangeable to whatever brush you have on it. The drill, you got to get a corded drill. You can't just use a battery operated one or whatever. It just won't do as good of a job. You might say you're happy with it, but it won't. It just doesn't spin the brush fast enough. Alright, so tip to tail, basically you want to make sure you know which way the brush is going so you can see the structure in the board. If you're pulling the brush one way and it's flattening out all the wax, go the other way where you see the groove. So my first pass is going to be like a test spot to see which way it's making the groove. Okay, so I'm making the groove pulling this way, so I'm going to continue to pull this way. Alright guys, so I'm going to move on to nylon now. And I have two nylon brushes that I use. One's wider and one is thinner. This is the thinner one right here, which I'm not going to use right now, because I use this one when there's heavy imperfections in a deck, and when there's not as much imperfections, I'll use this longer one because it saves time on a snowboard. If you're doing skis, you probably do not need this very wide roto brush. Alright. Again, make sure you are creating structure, not flattening out the wax. guys, so I just did the big long brush and I'm not liking how there's too many imperfections in the board still, in the wax I should say. So I'm going to put on the smaller brush and really buff them out, and then once I'm done I'll create the structure. Okay guys, as I'm moving up the board, I'm seeing some imperfections in the wax, basically excess wax, and it's basically from here to here. So basically I'm going to take all of that out and then go back to the tip and give it all the structure. Alright guys, so pretty much there's like a couple of small spots left on this white part of the tail right here. And basically what I'm looking for is when I'm pulling my nylon brush back and forth is I'm watching that spot and I'm watching it disappear. As soon as the spot disappears, then I'm good to go. I don't need to go any farther than that. So you guys know, I'm super hyped about my new beard. 37, it's my first one. Alright, so most of the imperfections are out, and I'm just going to create more structure before I go to the horsehair. Alright guys, so just like a groomer, structure on your board will give you that separation from the snowpack. You don't want your wax job to be smooth all the way across. You want separation. So I'm going to switch to horsehair real quick, and we're going to get this finished up. This is the second to last step. Yeah, so so basically you always got to check for structure with each brush. With this one right now, it's from here to there creating the structure. You never want to take it away, especially with the horsehair at the end. Make sure to unplug all your tools. I'm going to flip it over real quick and do the last step, which is getting all the excess wax off the top of the deck. I usually like to use a baby wipe for this. It gets it the best. Towel real quick. Alright guys and gals, this is the 148 GNU B Nice. It's got that sweet magnet traction. The wife's got some retro to kind stompers on there with some Purdy Now Condas. Nice little setup. So yeah, that's it. Basically, this is the Wax Assassin signing out, saying treat the environment and people like you would treat your snowboard.